Whenever we see the pig family, we picture all the little piggies happily appearing on the show. After all, they almost never seem to deal with any problems. But what if we told you that the pig family actually goes through their fair share of ups and downs too? Paternal grandparents. Yep, their life isn't perfect. There's a sad side to it. You can't always notice it just by watching what happens to them in each episode, but sometimes the answer is paying attention to what's missing in those episodes. If you do that, you'll notice that Peppa's paternal grandparents, Daddy Pig's parents, have never once shown up in all these 20+ years of episodes. In all this time, the only grandparents Peppa and George have ever met are Mummy Pig's parents, and those grandparents show up quite a lot actually. But Daddy Pig's parents? It's like they don't even exist. That's led many fans to a rather grim conclusion. Peppa's paternal grandparents passed away before the show even began. While it's a bit dark to think about, it's far from unbelievable. Grandparents are usually quite old, so they're more likely to pass away than anyone else. And it's actually rare for someone to have all their grandparents still alive. In other words, the pigs are far more like a real-life family than we might imagine. And if you still don't agree, you might change your mind by the end of this video, because we're going to show you the sad side of life of every single member of the pig family. So get comfy, because this is another Cinewave. Eevee wasn't planned. The Peppa Pig animated series is going through one of the best moments in its entire run, and the main reason for that is the birth of Eevee, Peppa's baby sister. Few fans imagined the show would actually take the leap and have Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig welcome a new baby after 2 decades with almost nothing changing in the series. What even fewer considered is that maybe Peppa's parents weren't expecting it either. Eevee might very well have been an unplanned baby. That seemed to be hinted at in the real-life interview Mummy Pig gave to a newspaper when her pregnancy was announced. She described the situation as a huge surprise, and even admitted to feeling overwhelmed at the idea of having to take care of 3 kids. She really shouldn't be worried about that if having another baby had been the plan all along, right? Mummy Pig and Daddy Pig would have made that decision knowing they'd be losing plenty of sleep over the next few years thanks to a crying baby. It's something they should have discussed ahead of time to prepare themselves, but it sure seems like it really was a surprise. Even though everyone was happy when the little one was born, you can tell that many had their doubts during Mummy Pig's pregnancy. Let's just hope Eevee never finds out about that when she's older. Daddy disrespected. Usually the dad is a figure who gets respect from every member of the family. Unfortunately, that's not the case with Daddy Pig. Quite the opposite. He's the target of jokes from every single member of his family, especially Peppa, his own daughter. In the episode The Treehouse, Grandpa builds a little playhouse for his grandkids. Peppa and George have a blast in it, but what really made Peppa laugh was the password she came up with for the house, Daddy's Big Belly. You could only go inside it if you said it out loud, which clearly made Daddy Pig sad, especially because he had to say it himself to get in. And to make it worse, Granny Pig also made everyone say that same password to get into her own house right after. Yep, even Mummy Pig's parents poke fun at their son-in-law. Then, in At the Beach, the family buries Daddy Pig in the sand for fun and puts a hat on his head for the sun. But only because he asked him to. When it's time to leave, they completely forget about him. The only one who remembers is George, while Peppa and Mummy Pig think they've only forgotten the hat. Yep, even Daddy Pig's wife was about to leave him behind. If you also feel sorry for Big Belly Pig, Daddy Pig, drop a comment below saying #BigBelly. #Daddy. Actually, you decide which one to use. Did Dottie run away? Aunt Dottie is another one who seems to have a sadder side. Even though she looks happy in the episode where she visits her family, we have reason to believe she's actually on bad terms with her relatives. Aunt Dottie first appeared in a 2024 episode called Thanksgiving. Funny enough, her name was first mentioned way back in the episode Horsey Twinkletoes in 2011. It took the character more than 10 years to finally show up in the series. The reason Dottie shows up so rarely is because she lives in another country. But why does she take so long to visit her relatives? The Pig family has traveled to other countries plenty of times, so money clearly isn't an issue for them. And that's where we go back to what we said before. In reality, Dottie can't stand her family and moved far away precisely to avoid them. She only visits once every few years, just so they won't call her ungrateful afterward. Daddy had a sister? Speaking of uncles, do you think Daddy Pig's only sibling is Uncle Pig? That's what we're all led to believe when watching the show, but there's a detail that suggests he also had a sister, only she met an unfortunate fate that still haunts him to this day. That detail is a photo found in Daddy Pig's office, a black and white picture of 2 children who look a lot like George and Peppa, but with different clothes. It's highly unlikely these 2 are actually Daddy Pig's kids, since it makes no sense for them to have taken a black and white photo. In fact, the 2 in that photo are probably Daddy Pig himself as a child, and the girl who looks like Peppa can only be a relative of his, which explains the resemblance. This points to the idea that he really did have a sister, but since she's never shown up in present-day episodes and has never even been mentioned, we imagine Daddy Pig lost his sister before the series began, the same way he lost his parents. Peppa rejected. Peppa is the big star of the show, and everyone knows it, but that doesn't mean she's the star of her own family. In fact, it seems like she's more the least favorite child. Things were already like that when her only competition was George. Now imagine with Eevee in the picture. While Peppa is loved, certain moments make it clear she isn't her parents' priority. George is the one who gets the most gifts, owning more than one dinosaur. He even got a robotic dinosaur when his favorite toy broke. Even so, the little guy is always making a mess and even plays with his food. And guess what? Most of the time, his parents just laugh instead of giving him a talking to. As if that wasn't enough, his birthday party was held at a museum and featured things like a life-size robotic dinosaur and a bouncy castle shaped like a dinosaur. The way Peppa is treated is very different. When Mummy Pig saw her daughter had fought with Susie, she just laughed instead of trying to fix the situation. When George gets sick and spends the night making noise while he sleeps, everyone is happy to see him healthy the next day, but no one notices that his big sister didn't get any sleep at all because of the noise. Finally, Peppa's birthday didn't even come close to what her brother got. Instead of a trip to some amazing place, everything happened at home, and the main attraction was Daddy Pig pretending to be a magician. Now that Eevee's here, forget it. The baby can't even feed herself yet and already has an entire bedroom just for her, while Peppa had to share hers with George all these years. Good thing we have no problem sharing our daily videos about our favorite cartoons with you. How about subscribing to the channel so you never miss them? Peppa hates George. Because of this favoritism, Peppa ends up getting really annoyed and sometimes takes out all that anger on George. It's no surprise that the little pig treats her brother terribly in some episodes, even refusing to let him play with her and Susie. In the episode Dens, she even kicked George and Richard out of her treehouse just because they're boys. In George Catches a Cold, Peppa acts as if George being sick isn't a big deal at all. This is the same episode where her parents don't care that she couldn't sleep, showing that the way she treats her brother is connected to the way her parents treat her. George adopted? The parents' preference for George might not be just because he's younger than Peppa. There's a good chance George isn't even their biological child and was in fact adopted. Yes, you heard that right. This is something many fans started thinking when they realized that, unlike Peppa, George doesn't have a name that starts with a P. Almost all the kids have first and last names that start with the same letter. Susie Sheep, Freddie Fox, Edmund Elephant, etc. That's not the case for George Pig. Eevee and Peppa's cousins are also exceptions, but they have their reasons. Eevee is a new addition to the show and completely different from anything before. Meanwhile, Uncle Pig's kids, Chloe and Alexander, aren't part of the main family, so they don't have to follow those rules. But what's George's excuse? None. Or maybe this is actually a sign that George hasn't been a part of the family since birth because he's an adopted piglet. That would explain why Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig give him so much attention. They're afraid he might feel different from his older sister, but they ended up overdoing it. Neither he nor Peppa knows this. At least not yet. George behind. Despite everything George goes through, the saddest thing about him seems to be that he might have serious learning difficulties. Even after so many seasons, the former youngest member of the pig family still speaks very little, even for someone his age. Sometimes he seems to not understand what's going on and doesn't respond to others with words. The only thing George says frequently is dinosaur because of his obsession with those prehistoric animals. It's for reasons like this that many fans believe Peppa's younger brother might have a condition that affects his learning. You can click on one of the 2 videos we've left on your screen to keep having fun with us. Thanks for watching, and see you next time!